Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Thursday, January 25th. We are back. We got a 7-game slate, and it's one is pretty interesting. I'm not getting to a ton of the chalk this slate, so probably a little more to talk about. Hopefully, I can still make the show a little condensed and not get too long-winded here. Now, before we get into it, I want to bring your attention to our promos down there. You can get a free month of LionStar by joining, if you're a new customer, with Parlay Play, Sleeper, Underdog, or CHALKBOARD. All of them, you need to deposit at least $10. Some of them you need to play through that $10. Some it's just got to deposit. I also want to bring up the fact that Sleeper is still giving a first time 500 deposit match. So that'd be dollar for dollar, up to 500 free. Most of the others do up to $100 match. So I definitely would jump in on the free money if you can. Now, let's get in on the slate here. So, as always, get over to FanDuel, the 7-game slate here. It is nice that today both Draftkings and FanDuel are using all the games and the same amount of games. So that was a little wrinkle they threw at us yesterday where the two had different game lengths. And I do have to say that I kind of did like having the slate being so early in the night for me on the West Coast here. And not having to sweat or pay attention to those last couple games was a little bit nice. But all in all, I'm glad we have at least 7 games tonight, and I think it is a fun one. So let's get into it. All right. So, starting point guard, high ownership for FanDuel, Jordan Clarkson, 6,900, 34% owned. Clarkson, I think, is very interesting. The thing is that he is coming off the bench, and his minutes are all over the place. But point guards versus Washington, and he is mainly playing point guard, some shooting guard when he's coming off the bench. Regardless, he's controlling the ball a lot, has a very high usage when he's coming off the bench. But he needs to get extra minutes. The only way he gets those if he's playing well. If he's not playing well, he just kind of does whatever. Gets usually 28, 30 minutes, something like that. But when he's playing good, they will give him that run to 35. So I think he is interesting in GPPs, but no way he should be 34% owned. He just has so much volatility. Now, I don't mind going here. I'm getting to a little bit of it. Sexton would be a pivot off him in the, very similar situation. Whereas if he gets going, he plays extra minutes. I just wouldn't have the two of them together. And Sexton's a little lower owned, so it makes a little more sense to me going that way. Malik Monk, 6,500, 29% owned. I think Monk is in a fine spot. The issue with Monk is he's coming off the bench like Clarkson, so the minutes we can't really project for. If he's playing well, he gets 28. If he's not playing well, he gets 24. We have him at 28 right now. I personally think that's a little high. I think we should probably more have him in the 26 range, but, he's in a fine spot. He's in a Warriors game that's pace up, high scoring, and he could definitely get it done versus them. But it's another spot where I don't love chasing him at high ownership. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is in a great spot. I really like Fox. He hasn't been playing, super well as of late, but we know the minutes are going to be there. He likes playing the Warriors. He gets up for it, and we got a high total here. 2 games this season that he's played versus them, 54 in both of them. So we do have a track record of success with him, and he's not that high owned at only 20%. Some other pivots I like, value-wise, Patrick Beverley is a little interesting to me. So he's been out a couple days with an illness. He is back. He's off the injury report. But without Melton, he's been playing 28, 27 minutes a game, and that's pretty interesting to me versus the Pacers coming off the bench. We have him projected 24.7 minutes. I think we could probably add another minute to that and he would still look all right. So I think he's in a very interesting spot, pace up. The one thing is that Halliburton is out, and, you know, it could be a potential blowout, but Vegas has it only at 5, so it's not a terrible spot to go, I think, for a value spot at lower ownership. Another pivot, $8,700 Jamal Murray. I think his price is up there, but it is also warranted. 1.27 fantasy points per minute over his last 20 starts. He's playing, 36, 37, 38 minutes a game. If you go against the Knicks, where you want to attack generally is point guard. And if there's no Hartenstein, it might be a little bit easier to get to the rim and make some baskets at the bucket, just due to no Robinson, no Hartenstein. Hartenstein is questionable, so pay attention to that going into the game. But I think Murray is interesting either way. He's shown some, solid ceilings, getting into the mid-50s, regularly being into the 40s. I'm interested. I do think his price is getting up there a little bit, but definitely intrigued a bit on him. Derek White's another guy I am interested in on versus the Heat. Heat haven't been that good versus shooting guards, and I don't mind attacking that. They're 26 overall in fantasy point scoring to shooting guards, and Derek White is one of the key guys on this Boston Celtics team. Now, everybody is healthy, so you never really know where that production is going to come when the Celtics stars are all playing, but at low ownership with his ceiling and his price, I'm absolutely willing to take a shot on a couple Derek White lineups. All right, going over to DraftKings, high owned, Sexton, Dunn, Malik Monk. Sexton, just like Jordan Clarkson, I am very interested in. He is starting at least. He's been playing really well. I think his minutes are a little more secure than Clarkson, but all in all, both these guys are pretty much in the same spot. If they play well, they get extra minutes. If they don't play well, then they don't get extra minutes. So, very good spot being a guard versus the Wizards. So I definitely am intrigued to go there. I like this spot for Dunn. My issue is the minutes. We have him at 20.5 minutes, and his minutes can be 15. They can be 27. You don't really know. If he plays 24 plus minutes at his price, I love the play, but that's the issue. The ceiling is there if he can get it, though. So I would like lower ownership there, but price is right. Malik Monk, do not mind, and Spencer Dinwiddie. Oh man, Spencer Dinwiddie, you just never know what you're going to get from him. But 5,200, I think you have to consider him. He only played 19 minutes last game. That's not his normal. We're still at, project around 30, and he's always right around 30 fantasy points. So I don't mind going back to Dinwiddie after he just let everybody. All right, and now over to the matchup tool. So top of the matchup, we got Tyus Jones, Kobe White, and Tyler Hero, along with Maxey here. The thing with the Pacers is the Pacers have actually been pretty good versus point guard when Halliburton's in. When he's been out, they've dropped off quite a bit, which he will be out of this one. Jones, I think, is a little bit interesting in this spot versus the Jazz. I like it. I just don't love it. Kobe White, I am intrigued on. I love attacking the Lakers with point guards, and White's usage is just big time up without Levine, and he's been playing well, so don't mind going back there. Miami Heat with me right now. I just don't really know what's happening with Rozier added to the team, so I'm a little hesitant going to them. I'm fine having some Heat, but I'm just not going overboard with any of them because I do worry that usage is just going to be too spread out for them now. And let's get back over to shooting guard. All right, so high-owned Clarkson, Benedict Mathurin, and Malik Monk. I do like Mathurin quite a bit. I liked him last game. He did get up to 28 minutes at least. He just didn't quite get it done. He fell a little short. But being on the second unit is beneficial to him, I think, in this spot. 76ers second unit just is not as good versus small shooting guards, small forwards, and his usage goes way up without Halliburton playing. So I like the spot, and he's a guy that is a nice GPP play because he does have those big high ceilings, low floor, but does have the high ceilings. Now, I don't love his ownership, but I don't mind it. And today there's enough pivots that I like where I'm really not that concerned with ownership today. Kevin Huerter is a guy that I'm interested as a pivot. He has big high highs, has low floors. He's that GPP play I like. But he's fully back in this rotation, playing 26 to 30 plus minutes a game, depending on if he's playing well. I like him. He is one of my favorite plays on this Kings team because when he gets rolling, he really gets rolling. And it's a nice spot for him with a high 242 total. And I don't mind that it's in a late game. I like having guys in those late games, not only for the flexibility if there's late news in the NBA, but also just because I hate seeing my cash total slowly go down throughout the night. Not necessarily the sharpest thing to always do, but I think in general having late games is good just due to the flexibility. Other pivots I like, Anthony Edwards. Edwards versus the Nets. I like to attack the Nets through point guard, through shooting guard, and he's a guy that can get you 60 at only 9K, so absolutely intrigued on that, so do not mind going with him. Now, on to shooting guard. On DraftKings, high-owned, Sexton, Clarkson, Malik Monk. We covered them all, so we'll just go straight to the matchup tool here. And on the matchup tool, Sexton, Huerter at the very top, KCP I am getting to a little bit, and I am intrigued with him. I like him more on DraftKings at 4,700 than on FanDuel at 5K, but I'm a little bit intrigued. You know, his ceiling very, very rarely comes, but he's at least consistent, and right now there's not a huge amount of value out there, so I am a little intrigued. Not going to go overboard because he's not a great GPP play, but I think this matchup is at least intriguing to me for him. Now, getting over to small forward, high-owned Dorian Finney-Smith, Denny Advita, and Benedict Mathurin. Lauri Markkanen's right there with ownership too, so we might as well go over him as high-owned. DFS, I'm fine with him. He's kind of like KCP where he's a little bit of a value. He's there. But just rarely has a ceiling game. Can he get you there? Yes. I'm not getting to a lot of them, especially not at high ownership. Denny, he went nuts yesterday. We were kind of on him yesterday, and he's in an okay spot, just not a great spot. I just much prefer Kuzma over Denny, especially at lower ownership. Benedict talked about Lauri Markkanen. Look, this Jazz versus Washington game is just very, very interesting. Jazz are 7.5 point favorites because the Wizards are terrible, but really both teams are terrible, and we got a 246 total, so makes sense to be going there a little bit. And Markkanen is clearly the top option and been flirting with 50 a ton lately, and at 8.4K, I am fully on board, fully intrigued by that play. Then we go down to Kyle Kuzma. The matchup, Markkanen versus Kuzma is an interesting one, and I'm on board with going to Kuzma too. He's another guy with a big ceiling, only 7,800. Don't mind going there. He is playing back-to-back tonight, though, and I want to bring your attention to this. Averages 30.9 fantasy points with no rest. That's minus 20%. So don't love that aspect of Kuzma, and maybe it's a little more reason to go with Markkanen. DeMar DeRozan, I love this spot. 8K is just too cheap for a guy that can get you 50 without Levine. So definitely going there quite a bit. And Simone Fontecchino is another value play I don't mind getting to. He can get you in the 30s. That's what you want at 4,800, so don't mind going there at low ownership. On to small forward on DK. We got Chris Dunn, Marketing, and DeRozan. Covered them all. Moving over to the matchups. Harrison Barnes, Wiggins, Cameron Johnson. I do think Wiggins is a little interesting. 5,500 isn't too much. He has the ceiling for it. Just the consistency isn't there for him. But it is a decent matchup versus the Kings. Cam Johnson, I am very intrigued about. I like this matchup versus Minnesota. We bet Cam Johnson in the prop show. Definitely intrigued to go there. Now power forward on FanDuel, Domantas Sabonis, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Denny Lauri Markkanen. Sabonis, I would much rather just attack with Fox in this game than Sabonis. Warriors are kind of sneaky good versus the bigs. Just don't love going there. We talked about Denny, talked about Kuzma, Pascal Siakam. Look, Siakam has been playing bad lately. Been bad with the Pacers. But he does go through this stretch, with the Raptors where for a while he's just not that good. But he still is a solid per minute fantasy producer. Over the course of the season, he's going to be right around 1.15. Maybe it's a little different in this scenario, but he's been playing like he's under a fantasy point per minute, and that's just not him. I think he's over that, even with the Pacers. It is a high pace game. I don't mind going back there if nobody's there. He's going to have a pop game versus with the Pacers soon and have it start clicking with this team. I don't mind going back there. Marvin Bagley, I think, is an interesting one. Had 26 minutes last night and put up 37 points. The guy has just been producing on a fantasy per minute basis, and now he's in a very good matchup. There's also a lot of ways where he can get extra minutes. He can play well and get extra minutes. You can get Gafford in foul trouble, what happens often, and gets him an extra minute. So I do like some paths to using Bagley coming off the bench a little bit. And Aaron Naismith, don't love it. He's kind of like a KCP, Dorian Finney-Smith type where he's not going to get you 6x very often, but at least he is the spot I would probably attack versus the 76ers if I don't go Siakam. Power forward on DK. Marketing, Trey Lyles, and DeRozan. Lyles is a bit too cheap, and he could definitely give you a, 30-point performance coming off the bench if he gets a couple extra minutes. But, 30 points, 3.7K. Sorry, couldn't talk for a minute. For a guy that generally gets 18 to 20 minutes off the bench but produces at a decent clip, you could do worse. I don't like his ownership, but you could do worse. DeRozan, 7,400 is just way too cheap. And matchup tool-wise, we got LeBron James, Batum, and Dorian Finney-Smith. Don't hate going LeBron. LeBron did sit out last game. You can go there if you want. 9,200 is not too expensive for him. He can absolutely get it done at that point. And at least 9.2K is, his average score then is getting you pretty close to 6x and definitely more over 5x. So definitely a little bit intrigued. In cash, I would probably be playing him and DeRozan. And getting over to center, high-owned centers, Sabonis and Saric. I'm not on the Saric train. Don't mind it, though. 5.1K is just too cheap. My issue is that, he's going to start and likely play 22, 23 minutes and just not really get it done. Very intrigued by Vooch going against the Lakers. He's had a mixed pass versus them, but without Levine, he can get up there. And generally when he gets his minutes, his 34, 35 minutes, he gets it done. And he has a huge ceiling for 8.3K. Pascal, we talked about. Walker Kessler is another guy coming off the bench that I think is pretty interesting. He also could get Gafford into foul trouble. He can get Bagley into foul trouble. Bagley's terrible on the D, and Kessler can put points up in bunches. The issue here is his minutes. He just isn't playing many minutes. If he gets to 32, he can get it done. He's 1.14 fantasy per minute. Guy coming off the bench in a very good matchup. You could put it more 1.25-ish in this spot. But it's just, does he get the minutes needed? Bagley we talked about, and moving over to DraftKings, high owned Trey Lyles, Joel Embiid, Sabonis. I don't mind going back to Embiid. Embiid could torch them. He come off a 106 fantasy point performance. I mean, at this point, it's almost mid 60s as his baseline, with 70s being a regular possibility, and then has those huge ceiling games of 80, 90, 100. So always in play going to Embiid. Matchup wise, Collins is on the top. Remember, it's Collins or Kessler. I just prefer Kessler there. Embiid, Gafford is there. All good plays. Adebayo went nuts last night. Just don't know if he can do it back-to-back nights and against Porzingis in this spot. All right, that will do it for us, guys. I hope you guys have a good night. Good luck. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps me a ton. Peace, guys. Have a good one.